Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's up, Panther fans? It's Tuesday night, 9 p.m., and we've got a great show for you tonight. Canales ditches those salty snitches. That's right. Yeah. Get rid of those guys. Bring in the new crew. Man, we've got a ton to talk about, from Dave Canales, his new coaching hires, to a new front office coming in potentially. Fivehead is on the way. The playoffs, man, the Super Bowl is here. Steve Wilkes is in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl. And EMC in the Super Bowl. We got a ton to talk about, and we're going to do it with you guys tonight. Go ahead, smash the thumbs up button, get in the show. The number's 252-228-5098. We'll be taking your calls later on. And I'd like to just say, what's up to my wheel man, Cody Lack. How you doing, my friend?
Tony Dunn. Right now, it's looking like we are the Tampa Bay Panthers. We're hiring seemingly their entire coaching staff. But, man, look, when you have history with people, it goes a long way, man. A wise man once said it's all about who you know. And if you have ever known Dan Morgan or Dave Canales, maybe you can be a new coach for the Carolina Panthers. But, dude, we're going to talk about it today. We have a brand new offensive coordinator, a brand new O-line coach, a brand new running game / assistant head coach. Man, we have a great show tonight in store for the C3 Panther Nation. Tony Dunn, we're going to do it with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube. You know them and love them. We got our guy Panther Pickle. Drew, what's up, baby? Anthony, the brand ambassador, D's Ills Skills, what's up? C Cody 13, Dan Floyd, D from Sanford, what's up? Panther Gal 73, Roosevelt Mongo, the real C3 AP, Patty Grimes, and that Paisan Muscles Marinara. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, consider being a C3 super fan for $1.99 a month. If you scroll up to the top of the comments, you can find a link to our merchandise, C3 Panthers Podcast t-shirt, the Shut the Hell Up t-shirt, and You Make Me Effing Sick by G-Baby gear right there. CK, the voice that makes a voice, we may have won the coaching search as Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson return to their respective teams.
Man, I tell you what, imagine being the Panthers right now if we hadn't chosen a head coach at this point in time, and now the field has been narrowed down to Dan Quinn, and really that's it, and Bill Belichick. Listen, I'm thankful that I know a lot of people aren't really still high on Canales, but man, I'll tell you what, we could be sitting here holding just this empty bag of nothingness like the Commanders are, where they were banking on Ben Johnson. It was abundantly clear that Ben Johnson was the guy. And now they're sitting here trying to figure out what they're going to do. I just couldn't begin to fathom what it would feel like to be a Panthers fan if that were to be the case. Glad to hear we were able to come out with the guy that we wanted. And you know what they say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And right now, holding on for Slowick or Ben Johnson to come to the Panthers wasn't a great choice. And we had Canales in the hand. So let's hope that comes to fruition. And this will be a decision that, we look back on as being an absolute banger.
First team all stud, baby. Let's go.
Oh, I know. We went from the sloppiest coaching staff to the oldest coaching staff to now the male model coaching staff. Look, you're listening to the longest running Panthers podcast. We break all the news. We're here getting it done as soon as it comes out all the time. In fact, we are way ahead of the curve when it comes to even Steve Reed and Scott Fowler. These guys are trying to make a little headway on Dan Canales' checkered past. I don't know how I feel about their headline. Steve Reed from the AP says new Carolina Panthers coach Canales details infidelity, binge drink, addiction to pornography, and 2022 book he co-wrote with his wife. Boy, they're trying to get a couple of clicks there for sure. But man, we just need y'all's support by getting in that chat, hitting those cat calls. Let's pop into this show, guys. Tonight's show, Dave Canales ditches those salty snitches. Man.
Dude, I was telling CK, our wordplay game, we're killing it out here. You know what I'm saying?
I like it. We had a breaking podcast last Tuesday. We were talking about who the Carolina Panthers were going to hire. Yep. On Wednesday, they announced that Dave Canales would be the new head coach for the Carolina Panthers. We got right out on a breaking news podcast. So, guys, Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach, and now he started to fill out some of his staff. And really, he's been poaching a lot of his connections from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, really guys that he knows. His best friend is going to be the offensive coordinator, but he will maintain play calls. Who is this guy? Not really a great picture right here in the right, but another Southern California kid. These guys are the all good-looking staff here. The Panthers are hiring Brad Idzik as their offensive coordinator. Just 32 years old, Idzik continues to fast rise up the NFL ranks. And Dave Canales, how old is Dave Canales is 42. So we got a young, good-looking staff here. We have not heard about the defensive side if Ejiro Evero is going to return. I think they are still potentially thinking about hiring him in Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle, and now that situation in Washington is taking the place, I think that we might see a potential for him to go there as well. I think Evero just became a top head coaching candidate in the league right now.
Which could be problematic for us because you wonder how Carolina is going to handle that with finding their defensive coordinator. Yep. Could they bring back Ron Rivera? Is that possible?
Oh, boy. Dude, I wouldn't be opposed to Ron as a defensive coordinator. But look, Idzik, it's another example of somebody that Canales knew in that Seattle organization, and they got along great. They had good chemistry with one another. And they went from Seattle to Tampa Bay with one another. And he's very well respected. He looks up to Canales a lot. I even have a clip of them running around doing laps before a home game that we can play here in a minute. But just looking at, there's not a whole lot written about him online. You kind of have to do some digging. But he started his coaching career as a graduate assistant at Stanford in 2014. He was there for 4 years, and that's when he finally started coaching NFL football to become an assistant wide receivers coach for the Seattle Seahawks. So he has a lot of history with wide receivers. I'm hopeful that a young guy like this might be able to get through to another young guy like Jonathan Mengo. So maybe we're able to see him elevate his game and his performance. Yeah. And then, again, I know to some it might seem out of the question, like it'll never happen. But, hey, those are two guys in Dave Canales and Idzik that Mike Evans does know really, really well. So it doesn't put those rumors, I wouldn't say rumors, but that urge to want to get Mike Evans on the Panthers. Hey, maybe that's a little bit of fuel to that fire.
One thing I'll say to that too is this is a completely stark difference to what we've seen from either of these two administrations. I've been watching a lot of political news here lately, guys. Either of these two head coaching offices that we had prior to Canales, and that is he's hiring people that he knows. People that have been there with him who are going to have chemistry already. We had Matt Rule come in here and he basically hired all people that were didn't know who he was. He didn't know who they were outside of Phil Snow, and it didn't work. And honestly, the only thing that did work was the defense while Phil Snow was here. So I think there's something to that chemistry among coaches as well. So I'm hoping that hiring people that maybe we're not seeing as big names are going to be a positive for us moving forward.
Yeah, I want to mention that and continue to build on that is as we talk about Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick returning to their respective teams. To me, there's something I think cooking here in Carolina. Now, I'm not going to go and get my hopes up and all of a sudden say Canales is the next best thing since sliced bread or whatever it may be, but Dan Morgan, I want to see that continuity, that trust. We're hearing the rumors too about camping and being a snitch and things like this that are, kind of ruins locker room trust. Well, Dan Morgan went and hired his guy in Dave Canales that he knew instead of hanging around and waiting for a Ben Johnson. And, you wonder too if that continuity would have existed there as bringing in this hot name, right? And then having Dan Morgan, who has taken a lot of flack from Carolina Panther fans for being associated with the failures of the last 3 years in so many ways, I don't know if that would have necessarily created the best meshing point from the beginning. So I like this is that Dan Morgan, not only does he have a past relationship with this coach, but I think that relationship starts the organization on a foot of trust going forward. And if there's ever a time that you needed that continuity, that level of trust, particularly but in the locker room and in the front office and towards the fan base, it is now. So I really am, I'm really happy. You can't be, everybody's asked me, they said, people come up to me and they'll say, what do you think about the hire? What do you think about the hire? And I'm kind of just even on it. I'm not too high. I'm not too low. I'm positive. I think it could work positively. I am a little surprised that Greg Olsen isn't talking more glowingly. He's a little reserved about the hire. I guess he's just like Panther fans at this point. It's time to wait and see instead of going out there and over blowing smoke out there. He
has to feel like we all do. Why continue to blow smoke? Why be heavy-handed with the praise when we've seemingly done that two coaching cycles in a row now. So, and a lot has to be earned, but I do think that there is good continuity and that these guys have a history with one another and that we're hoping that they'll be able to build something well that they'll be able to work together.
All right, so let's find out a little bit about this staff. I know he brought his run game coordinator and as offensive line coach with him.
Mm-hmm. So just to wrap up the conversation of Brad Idzik, we know that Canales will still be the one calling plays, which is what we brought him here to do. So that's no surprise at all. And again, I know we're not going to know this right away, and it'll be interesting to hear how Dave breaks these things up when it comes to what the offensive coordinator is responsible for doing in the offense. And I also wanted to give a reminder that this Thursday at 10 a.m., Dan Morgan and Dave Canales are going to be speaking for the first time to Panther Nation, and we're going to be live streaming it here on the C3 Panthers podcast for our first time listening to our brand new coaches. So hit the like button and stop by. I'll probably have the video up ready to go by tomorrow. But Brad Idzik will not be calling plays. And literally before the show went live, we got 2 new updates of more hirings by the Carolina Panthers. The first one is assistant head coach / run game coordinator Harold Goodwin to be the new assistant head coach working alongside the offensive line. Another guy from Tampa Bay that Canales had ties with. We also go to our brand new offensive line coach, Joe Gilbert, also coming over from Tampa Bay. So again, I made the joke to start the show, we're the Tampa Bay Panthers right now. But they seem to have been targeting these guys. It feels to me like they knew the guys that they wanted to bring to Carolina, and that's what they're doing.
Cody, dip out and come right back in. You're a little glitchy right now on your video. Maybe that'll help. One of the things that was talking about, or people have been interested when it comes to this the hiring of, what was his name again? The something Gilbert, whoever, he just said it. Whoever that guy is, we got to look at it here. Joe Gilbert is a lot of people have been concerned with the lack of running game that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had in the last year under Canales and even dating back before that. But this offensive line coach, what he did or was able to do was really coach up some players at some new positions and some different things like that. They moved, I think, Tristan Riffs to tackle. Yep. They had a first-time center. So they had to deal with some adversity from the start on their offensive line, and that offensive line continued to improve throughout the season. So I think that that's kind of what we are hoping that he'll bring to the Carolina Panthers is the ability to get more out of some of these players and maybe find them in their more natural roles or get, we're thinking Icky to guard type stuff, but I don't think we have the luxury of Icky at guard anytime soon until we can see if your boy returns and is able to maybe they'll see. Maybe we'll see.
Well, maybe they'll do a proper evaluation of those two players sometime this training camp. Here's to hoping. But again, Tony, we've now been through two offensive line coaches that were quote unquote highly touted, right? That were well respected around the NFL. First, it was John Matsko, who everybody said was such a great old line coach. Everybody was wanting him gone in no time. And then it was the same thing with James Campen. We felt like he hadn't gotten the most out of last year's Panthers O-line down the stretch. And then now we have all these crazy rumors about him being this snitch. He's basically the reason for the title of the show. But you had James Campen, who was essentially undermining everything that Frank Reich was saying and going behind coaches' backs and reporting directly to David Tepper, creating some of that Hunger Games environment that we've heard of. So, Tony, it's so hard for me to even get excited about any of these assistant coaches. We've had such a bad history with them, like not turning out to be who we thought they were. It's like the less I know about them, the better. I almost don't want to know anything about them other than maybe they're good with their players,
Yeah. Honestly, the less I know of them, even like if I don't recognize their name, that's probably a good thing at this point.
All right. Let's see what else. What do we got next here is we've got the new coaching staff. Oh, here is we mentioned this, and shout out to Salesman at 95 Keep Pounding on Twitter. He is always a great follow on Twitter. He sent this to me and he said, y'all need to talk about the relevance of Tepper's maturation from hiring a sweat hog, shitty dressing clown like Matt Rule to a smooth, cool looking dude. Maybe there is a glimmer of hope. If anything, it's going to get the ladies back out there. We're kind of going to dip into that kind of passion that you saw when you had Greg Olsen, Luke Kuechly, and CMC and Cam Newton. The girls went gaga for Luke Kuechly and Greg Olsen. So now they're going to go gaga for Dave Canales. And I got to say, I'm really most happy that he's a reformed man when it comes to his behaviors, because you would hate for this to end in destroying the Tepper marriage.
Well, you know who I tend to go gaga for? Mr. Strats, when he gives 20 memberships to the C3 faithful in the chat. Yeah, that's my boy. Hit the applause, Tony. What are you doing?
Oh, I don't even know.
Oh, no.
I'm all over the place. I'm pressing buttons everywhere.
There we go. Strats, you're the homie, man. We appreciate you so much. If you guys would like to hit the
look at this. More.
Yeah, even more of them. Flame for Jesus with the 5 gifted memberships. Man, the boys are out in abundance tonight. Appreciate y'all, man. Hey, C3 Panthers Podcast is here year round, so we appreciate y'all hanging out with the community. And Strats, Flame for Jesus, y'all are the man. Cheers, boys.
Just real quick before we move on from the new coaching hires, You do like that trust that comes with these guys, the friendship, the things that we saw the problems under Frank Reich's tenure of having just great resumes, but lack of familiarity. And It's kind of crazy because Frank Reich said, and it sucks that it didn't work in so many ways, because Frank Reich said he's never done this before, right? Like he's hiring people, he's stepping outside of his comfort zone. Matt Rule talked about how he didn't know, and maybe how David Tepper had kind of urged him to hire like Joe Brady and the likes of that. But one thing I was watching, there is a kind of a special that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put on about their team this year.
Watch the whole thing.
Yeah, and the very first thing that Dave Canales does is shouts out Harold Goodwin and that Joe Gilbert as really being the reason for his success as a coordinator in his first year. So I like that. He appreciates those guys. And I wonder how much of was this did these guys move up the coaching ladder by coming to the Carolina Panthers, or are they lateral moves?
No, I mean, you go from wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator, running backs coach, or assistants running back coach to assistant head coach. Can't remember the other one, but these were upward movement.
Okay, great.
These are the boys jogging around Tampa's field before the game. Again, they're young dudes, man. They're in shape. Listen, we've talked about how this team has lacked fire for the past few seasons. Dude, we had old guy energy, man. And I feel like maybe now this is pushing us towards getting some energy back in the locker room, man. That young energy. It's a football team, man. You need that. This is a sport that's won by young men on the field. And hey, I'm happy about these guys potentially being able to really update our practices and the way we train and the way that we prepare for these games. I'm hoping that maybe they'll have a better insight on how to keep our guys, training and preparing for the game, but also staying healthy too.
Yeah.
CK, hit these mugs up with, we need a little subscriber shame here. Great crowd out here, 151 viewers. Right now it looks like we've got 38 likes. If you guys could smash up the thumbs button, subscribe. CK, do what you do.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Carolina Panthers fans, it's a new era in Panthers fandom. We have an actual head coach who decided to come here and not go back to their team. So that's a win-win. That's probably the most wins we've gotten in a long time. And so here we are. We are coming together to talk about it here on the C3 Panthers podcast. And you've come in, opened the door, sat down, but you haven't given us the courtesy of a like. You haven't hit that subscribe button? What are you doing? I have one thing to say to all you absolute freaks. Subscriber shame.
100. Go ahead, Tony.
You go ahead. You do it better than I do.
Yeah. Hey, man, 152 people watching. Hit that like, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe for every single time the Panthers, C3 Panthers podcast goes live. We appreciate y'all, boys. Hey, we go year round, man. So for all your Panthers news and updates, this is the show to be at. Tony, you want to take some calls?
Yeah, I did want to mention Panther Pickle broke some news earlier. It looks like Thomas Brown has gotten a job as the passing game coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Thomas Brown, look, and this staff is out, and I'm glad. Actually, before we take this call, I do want to mention this real quick, is if we could talk about this, the Panthers let go of Chris Tabor and James Campen, which we mentioned earlier about the Campen news. I was kind of shocked. Did you guys, it seemed like a lot of Panther fans were kind of upset about the Chris Tabor, or disappointed. I know Tabor has had some real success with not only our special teams, but also with the Bears in the past and the Cleveland Browns. But to me is that there is some, I don't know if this really would be a great fit. In fact, if Ejiro Evero just wasn't really so good at putting together and getting a lot of that defense. I don't even know if keeping him around would have been the wise move. And we talk about James Campen being the snitch. I think that this is kind of a necessary thing, and I don't think the Panthers did Tabor wrong, nor do I really have a bad opinion of him as a coach, because a lot of people are like, oh, he got put in such a difficult position. We all knew that. I don't remember anybody being hard on Chris Tabor as an interim. They just felt sorry for him.
I will say this. I do feel like it's very hypocritical if you were one of these people that had a problem with us hiring in-house and Dan Morgan because you wanted new people in, but then got upset that we didn't retain Chris Tabor. Like, I'm just saying, it's like if you want to move on and you want to just get a brand new view on football in your coaching room, amongst your coaching staff, why would you want to retain anyone? I mean, Chris Tabor did a great job at the end of the year last year as the interim coach. He got a W for us. I mean, that was a W we didn't really even expect to get. But I really feel like it would just be holding on to unnecessary ties to the past that doesn't represent this coaching staff and what we're doing now. So it made sense to me.
Agree. All right, let's take some calls, man. It's time for your cat calls. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's get into them, Cody.
Let's do it.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey, C3, this is Seth from Little Washington, long-time listener to the podcast, first-time caller.
Appreciate it, man.
I know you had a podcast about the hiring of Dave Canales the other day, but I like to just kind of think about it for a little bit before I let my thoughts be known. My knee-jerk reaction, I didn't like it, but once you look into them, I mean, it's not too bad. I'm kind of sitting in the middle right now, not too excited, but not disappointed. I mean, I don't expect a whole lot of wins this upcoming season, maybe 5 or 6, but I think it's also the quality of your losses too. I mean, I think that's why Frank Wright didn't make it a full season. We just didn't even look like a competent football team while we were losing. So if he can win a few more games, just make the team look better when we do lose, I think that's a win. I think Bryce Young can be better than what he was. The line and the wide receivers underperformed heavily. I think biggest off-season need is going and signing a big wide receiver if you can, and then scouting the upcoming class and getting a good one there. So anyways, keep pounding. Love what y'all do. Keep going.
Man, thanks a lot for the call, man. Right down the road from me. That's 20 minutes from where I live. My son is turning 16 next month, and he is going for his birthday. Him and his friends are going to dinner at the Mulberry House in Little Washington. And boy, I tell you, stick around for my ice up pick. It's got to be about these car prices, bro. It is difficult out there trying to find a car for a reasonable price. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Chase in Anderson.
What's up, guys? It's Chase from Anderson. I heard on the radio the other day that there's some sources saying that the Atlanta Falcons head coach hire was like they had to settle for more because it was like the 5th or 6th on their list of wants, and they had to settle for that hire. Really, outside of the Jim Harbaugh hire, all the big hot name coordinators, they're really didn't get no hiring gigs or decided to stay where they're at. I think a big part of that was the playoffs so far. The hot name coordinators got made look like fools. As for the Panthers hire so far, Morgan, wait and see. I wouldn't even say cautiously optimistic about that. I would just say wait and see. The head coach Canales, I gotta say, I kind of like the guy. His resume is kind of impressive for what he's done, for what he's worked with. Let's see. Super Bowl prediction, I think the Chiefs are going to curb stomp the 49ers because Steve Wilkes and the 49ers fans are going to want Steve Wilkes run out of town because he loves running that zone defense, and you can't run a zone defense against elite quarterbacks like Mahomes. Mahomes is going to shred that defense, just like Goff did. And Goff is not even that great of a quarterback. That's all I got.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the call, Chase. Chase from Anderson. I agree with a lot of it. Why do you guys think that Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson returned to Houston?
I don't know. Am I the only one that's kind of annoyed by this Johnson guy now? Like, this is the second year in a row that he's like, I'm just gonna go back and like, dude, you're one of the hottest names in coaching, and you're just gonna turn this down as we're not ready. We're gonna make a push. Okay.
There's some belief that Tepper pulling in hiring somebody else before Ben Johnson ever. I think a lot of people believe that he was leveraging the amount of money Tepper was going to be willing to pay for him, and then obviously Tepper pulling out, that market crashed tremendously. That's one thought, but the other thought is like maybe he feels like there's unfinished business. I mean, those are his guys, and they came one game short of a Super Bowl. And quite honestly, it wasn't even the offense necessarily that was at fault for that absolute dumpster fire of the second half of the Detroit Lions. So maybe it's that. Maybe the dude feels like he's got some things he's got to finish up there.
Yeah, unfinished business is a good way of thinking at it too. I mean, this coaching and that staff has got to be so beloved in Detroit right now, just because of how much success they've had in the last year and a half. But I do think it's a risk for a guy like Ben Johnson because you have you kind of have this lull in both on offense and really just terrible defense in the second half for the Detroit Lions. So then if next year, if you run into maybe an injury at quarterback or you have, some adversity because you're going to have a tougher schedule probably going forward, or clearly you'll have a tougher schedule going forward, that name, the hotness, the newness of the sexiness of that name can wear off. I'm really interested. I mean, and look, and the Commanders flew out there to meet him. And he basically said, kick rocks. Now, I'm really shocked, though, that Slowick hasn't gotten a job.
I mean, both of those two were the biggest names of the coaching cycle. Like, we did a whole free-for-all that was like Slowick or Johnson. What team are you on? And, Tony, I think we have a pretty good thumb on the pulse of Panther Nation. I think I can confidently say that before we made our hiring of Dave Canales, a lot of Panther fandom had soured on Ben Johnson. And this was even before they lost the NFC Championship game. There were people that were saying, I don't know. People just had a feeling that this wasn't the guy. And I think last season when you heard that he was going to interview with the Panthers and then just decided not to and then goes back, now you're hearing that he's kind of doing the same thing to the Commanders. But just a week ago, they were reporting that it was all but a done deal that Ben Johnson was going to be the next head coach of the Commanders. So now that's like 2 cycles in a row. I don't know. He just kind of gives me bad vibes. I think he was giving that vibe to a lot of Panther fans. And, dude, if you're the Houston Texans, dude, you have to love that you're retaining that same offensive coordinator that made your rookie the best rookie quarterback potentially ever. So shout out to the Texans and the Lions, man. Like you said, Tony, like that coaching staff up in Detroit, they're legendary at this point in time.
What do you guys think about that second half and some of the decisions? The talk of the town has been their decisions to go for continue to be aggressive on fourth down. And
the morning quarterback. I mean, I
agree. I think they did the right thing a lot of those times. And I think when you're a team like the Lions, kind of with that checkered pass, I mean, obviously you got to go for the jugular in this league.
Go back to the season in the Detroit Lions 17 game regular season, and tell me more than 5 times that Dan Campbell went for it on 4th and 3. And I can tell you that it's probably 90% of the time.
And remember when they lost to the Cowboys too? They went for it like 3 times in a row, and that's when the whole substitution penalty bullshit happened. But yeah, that's their style.
Yeah, I mean, they had that 1 4th down, and then the damn Reynolds had some big drops. Man, if you everything that could go wrong went wrong for the Lions.
Right.
Particularly that near interception that turned into basically a touchdown where it like bounced off the dude's head. And then the receiver caught it down on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tough breaks. The problem, though, for teams like, and this is where I think, this could backfire on Ben Johnson maybe in the future, is it's hard to get back, dude. You know, I mean, you think of where the Carolina Panthers were in the 2015 season. If Cam wouldn't have signed his deal the year before that, he would have been we would have still been paying that much.
And he's talked about it too. Yeah. He's talked about it. If he would have signed 1 year later, the money would have been insane, man. Hey, speaking of the money, C-Dog with the $2 says keep pounding and fuck Tepper and Bryce Young. Dang, strong words, man.
Oh, speaking of, somebody mentioned here, we'll go to Chase from Anderson wants one more call. So short when let's see what he has to add.
This is Chase from Anderson again. I forgot one quick thing. Several months ago when they said the front office and the locker room atmosphere was like the Hunger Games because of backstabbing and this and that. From what I understood, things I heard, it was the 2 coaches that was let go, the special team coordinator and the O-line coach.
Yep.
The name slipped my mind, but
Camping and Tabor.
From what I heard, it was them 2 that was going behind Frank Wright's back and creating chaos.
Yeah, I think more, a lot of people assumed as the kind of rumors milled a little bit that Tabor was part of it because he got the interim job. But it looks more and more like it was centralized to James Campen. There's been some murmurs I saw too that players in Tepper were talking and things like this. I don't know how out of the norm some of these things are as we continue to hear that Dave Canales and Dan Morgan are going to answer to Tepper, probably continue those weekly meetings. It turns out that, hey, a lot of owners do those things. So it just is that, and here is Campen, a guy that Frank Reich retained, from the previous staff. Tabor. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if you're Dave Canales and you're looking at, that kind of relationship that's come, I mean, I think bringing your offensive, I think Tabor is the one that potentially had the argument for keeping because, as special teams have been pretty good for the Carolina Panthers, probably the best they've been since like Ted Ginn was our punt returner in so many ways. But I think this was the right move, fresh start. I heard somebody say this. I think it was Mac or one of the guys from WFNZ, and they were talking about how upbeat Dave Canales is, like kind of that cut from the cloth of Pete Carroll, like always optimistic, always just happy and juiced up and things like that. And they were talking about how we're going to have the most optimistic coach and quarterback in the history of the world.
That's a good point.
Everybody is just talking glowingly about everybody. The number's 252-228-5098. Look, I bet you this is G. Cavassier.
Podcast brothers, how y'all doing? Y'all know who it is. Everybody.
What up, G?
Cavassier. Hey, man, I looked online and I saw that we hired the offensive line coach from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I see that we hired the run game coordinator, too, from the Buccaneers. So, hey, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. And I'm going to get this off my chest because y'all my boys and all the fans. I love all y'all because we Panthers fans. Please stop talking so damn negative about the damn Panthers, y'all. Everybody, when Wright was here, and this and that, and the past this and the past that was a daggone pass. I really believe in Dave. I'll be mispronouncing his last name, whatever. And another thing I'm sick and tired of hearing, I keep hearing that he is Mexican. Okay, I get it. He has Mexican in his blood. Okay, race has nothing to do with it. And I'm very, very, very specific when I say that because I've been black a long time. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if he's damn Mexican. I don't care if he was white. I don't care if he was black. Who gives a damn about his daggone race? I just wish the media would stop saying that. Because last time the Panthers had a Hispanic coach, it was Ron Rivera. Okay, we know that. Who gives a shit, y'all? But before I let y'all go, let me ask y'all a question. Would you be satisfied with a 9-8 record?
Hell yeah.
It's not really all that. 9-8 record, and we make the playoffs and we lose in the first round. Would you guys be pissed off? I wouldn't, honestly, but give me your thoughts on that, y'all.
So I think that's the type of change in the right direction that you're looking for. If we go from the first overall pick in the draft that we don't own to one and done in the playoffs, I mean, that's a playoff football team. And I'm assuming, I guess that'd probably be a wild card. I don't think 9-8 would necessarily win the division, but it might. The NFC South has been bad. I mean, listen, anytime we're in the playoffs and competing for something in November and December, yeah, man, I'll take that all day. If we're able to do that, that is a big time step up, a glow up, as you will.
Yeah, what G was talking about with race, I think, if anything, a lot of people are interested in the racial diversity that has really exploded into the coaching circle in this hiring cycle in the past one. So you've got Raheem Morris in Atlanta. You have who's the guy from Texas again that I always forget his name? D'Amico Ryans. Then you get Canales, and his is, I mean, he's Mexican American. I don't know if it's really a huge, I mean, these things aren't a huge deal. I guess the biggest deal that I learned is that Bryce Young was part Mexican. Best joke I heard was. Did we ever
learn that was like a flub, or is that, there's no way that's real?
I don't know. Adam Schefter said it, or I think it was Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport on a podcast or something. And then I was thinking the best tweet that I saw in response to it was, man, you guys just assume he's Mexican because he's short from California. I thought that was funny. But no, I saw, look, Josh Klein just put out a tweet. Well, not just put it out, it was 8 hours ago, but I just stumbled across it. He said the theme of the new Panthers coaching staff appears to be alignment on the offensive side and continuity on the defensive side. That is if they are able to retain Ejiro Evero. But, now as some of these guys, I mean, maybe did Bobby Slowick say he's definitely coming back to the Texans? I mean, I feel like I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to go and be an OC somewhere else.
No, I just was surprised that Seattle isn't interested in him. I don't know who they're going to get. So who are the teams that are still looking for a coach? The Commanders, the Seahawks, and is that it? Is that what we're down to?
Seattle. Go get Mike Vrabel. Like, that seems like the easiest
Maybe
thing.
He could be our defensive coordinator.
Oh, dude, I would love that. Hey, I wanted to talk about this too because it's been talked about pretty much as if it's a done deal, but because the Chiefs are still competing for a Super Bowl, we're not allowed to actually make it official yet. But it's looking like the Carolina Panthers, they're going to be signing the brain, baby, Brant Tillis. He's going to be the vice president of football operations, I believe, here in Carolina. So
I hope he has a huge pillow for that huge head.
Dude, I hope that Dave Tepper buys him like a pure silk satin pillow that's like $500.
Yeah,
just to rest that. Just protect all that knowledge stored in that man's head.
So some people were interested in why this hasn't been a done deal yet, but it looks like with these front office hires and some of these, even with coaches, is that until they're out of the playoffs, they can't, formally be declared that they're going. But I know that he's cleaned out his office, right? So his office is cleaned out in Kansas, as well as he did not travel with the team for their 2 playoff games. And the Kansas City Chiefs are headed to the Super Bowl again. Man, I should have known
The chat room is always so hilarious every time that we bring up a picture of this guy.
What did they say now?
Well, no, just Brant cerebral Tillis.
Oh, yeah.
And just people like, Jesus, look at that fucking forehead.
I know.
Dude,
So I Married an Axe Murderer, and the Mike Myers is a Scottish grandpa in that, and he makes fun of his grandson, and he calls him Heed. He's got a hit. He's like, go cry yourself to bed on that huge pillow of yours. That's where
hey, look, dude, no fucking around. Make all the head jokes you want. The dude is very highly touted. We had put this up the last time we were going through the GM candidates, but to give you some background on him, he has 14 years of experience with the Chiefs, comes from a salary cap and negotiations background. In his current role, he works alongside GM Brad Idzik in multiple areas, including cap management and roster strategy. He also helped negotiate the record-breaking deal for quarterback Patrick Mahomes, which runs through the 2031 season. So, I mean, look, that was a big deal for that organization. I like this guy. I think now that you fired Samir Suleiman, that was really opening the door for somebody like Brant Tillis to come in and now be in that Samir Suleiman role. My question for you guys is, what do you think the mixture of Brant Tillis and Dan Morgan do for the guys that we decide to pay or not pay? So does this mean anything for Brian Burns? Does it mean anything for Derek Brown? I wonder if maybe we might see some moves come sooner rather than later on things like the franchise. What the hell was that?
My bad.
Jesus.
Sorry.
It's still going.
It's still going?
Yeah, you're like
or
destroyed my ear.
Yeah.
But no, just what it means for these guys that are looking to get paid by the Panthers.
I mean, I don't know what it means, to be honest with you. I don't know what hand he had in the Patrick Mahomes contract, the Chris Jones contract. I mean, I don't know. To be fair, you got to keep in mind Chris Jones held out until they gave him a deal, which was, halfway through training camp or what have you. So, I mean, it's not as though they were out here like finding a way to make this happen. It wasn't that quickly that they were able to do it. I'm more interested to see, why did he take this job? Obviously it could be money, it could be, but I mean, I don't know if this is a direct promotion.
What was his role with the Chiefs? I mean, he's gonna be. I don't know if he is vice president of football operations, vice president of. Yeah, I mean, I think you're gonna have. It's got to be a little bit, or else he wouldn't be interested in taking.
He
it.
wouldn't
Maybe
be allowed to. I don't think they could block him.
Right. I think this is one. I'm just happy to see Samir Suleiman go, because I think.
He's listed at 6'4", but his eye line is 5'8". Dude, that's fucked up.
He could get he could get the Panthers logo tattooed on his forehead.
He could. He's got enough room.
He could put two end zones on the side.
Dude, you could buy advertisement space on that forehead.
So messed up. So mean. We gotta stop. We're excited about him coming, but I think, look, is obviously Samir Suleiman, no matter what, people just continue to just say he was a genius, and we didn't really have any evidence for it while he was in Carolina. They bungled the talks when it comes to Brian Burns. They weren't able to get that deal done, or at least that's problematic. And really, the Carolina Panthers don't have as much salary cap room as we anticipated. And we're hoping somebody said deep hats. Deep hats, dude. You can't get that low profile lid on that mug.
No,
that's for sure.
No, it's impossible.
It should be the helmet that he would wear if he was in the NFL.
So I think this is what, if we are
he
talking,
he wouldn't have concussions. He'd have Concussion.
You're stupid, dude.
Oh man, what if he speared somebody?
Oh, stab him right in the heart.
So
He impales him.
back to the conversation though about, and with, joking aside, I mean, obviously I'm sure he's heard his share of those jokes throughout his life.
Could you imagine?
But for me,
He
what
probably
he's
stand with that head.
yeah. He for real. I'm sorry, you guys are so dumb. I think for me is, and I want to shout out Aaron Duncan on unnecessary bluntness for his take on this, and this is where I'd heard it. He said, "Look, if you're Derek Brown and you saw what Brian Burns went through, maybe you're going to play a little hardball when it comes to the Carolina Panthers to go ahead and get your deal done because your stock is at an all-time high of getting the Pro Bowl nod, setting the record in the history of football for defensive tackles or whatever it is." So I think, to me, that's where you're going to come in here and you're going to want him to get to work on that deal. For me, with Brian Burns, look, is what was it? Who were we asking? I think it was Ricky Raines. And he said number one, the sin of the past front office was how they handled the Brian Burns, from not trading him to not signing him and being in this limbo part. I think of Brian Burns, if we let him walk and go into free agency, he will make less money than he would make if he stayed here in Carolina. I think he is going to, have to say to Carolina, like, no, I'm not backing down at all. I was nice to you guys last year. I'm not taking a team discount or anything like that, but I don't think another team would have that type of leverage. He has more leverage with the Carolina Panthers than he does have with another team, which is, I think, problematic for us now. And I don't really know how to handle the Brian Burns situation. And to me, he's not number one priority for this front office. It's Derek Brown.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think after this year, a lot of people agree with you. And let's be real. I think that as the more time goes on, I think Brian Burns is losing the fan base that he once had. Not that we think he's a bad player, but we're demanding a level of performance and a level of consistency from Brian Burns that we feel like he hasn't met yet. And then he made comments at the end of the year that sort of hinted at him taking plays off because he was afraid to get hurt. All these things that just don't play well from the fan base perspective. Again, he was there all training camp. He didn't do the holdout thing, and a lot of fans gave him kudos for doing that. But I don't know. When you look at other edge players around the NFL, it's just hard for me to put Brian Burns in the same category as some of these guys that he's wanting to get paid comparatively. And we're still having this conversation. What I've always advocated for, Tony, is I believe it's the supplemental or the conditional franchise tag, where we can put a tag on them, and if some other team somewhere is willing to give up something for him, either in terms of draft picks or whatever it might be, a player, whatever it might be, then and we would also have the right to match that if they made an offer for him. That would be the route that I would.
They
like
have to give a first round pick, I believe, if they match or beat the price. If you go non-exclusive franchise tag, which would be, I think, sadly, it would be the next year, but probably would be the most beneficial for the Carolina Panthers. Now, look, I was always one of those people that said Brian Burns is a very good player, but not an elite player. And I hate that, that's really, it sucks. I'm a podcaster. I'm not a football player. He's out there. I believe he's made a Pro Bowl. He's had, he's done a lot for the Carolina Panthers and arguably, one of the top 3 players on our team. So I'm not just saying, I hate saying that because it's kind of just, it feels rude to say something about somebody who is such a professional and so good at what they do. I think you're right, Cody, though, is that that kind of, it's harder for the elite crowd, though, to make their elite argument. But CK, you've made a big, important point, and I agree with you too. Tell us what you think about some of the lack of numbers that Brian Burns put up this season, why that was kind of the issue. And Trey Boston stepped into this. Dang, I should have put the Trey Boston tweets into the discussion. He talked about Kelvin Benjamin a little bit, that it was more than just the injury that was problematic. He wouldn't talk in specifics, though. He wasn't rude about Kelvin Benjamin, but I disagree with Trey Boston. And I mean, obviously he's a pro football player, defensive player, and he's probably seen more than I have when I'm looking at this. I didn't feel like teams just allocated double teams and chips to Brian Burns all season. I thought he over embellished that, but TK, you have some reasons, and I think I've got some supplemental reasons to follow why Brian Burns' numbers aren't as impressive as they were the year before.
Ultimately, it was a disappointing year, right? Like, I don't think he performed to the level he felt like he's capable of. But I also think it's fair to acknowledge that this defense was rarely playing from ahead. And why that's important is when you look at the Panthers as a whole, we had the fewest pass attempts against us than any other team. And it was not really like even one team was one pass attempt out. Like, we were significantly in the lead there, meaning that there wasn't as much of an opportunity to actually basically pin your ears back and rush the passer. Think about this. We didn't lead in the fourth quarter a single second of the year. A single second. And a lot of the passing that takes place in this league is in the fourth quarter because there's somebody playing from behind, and hopefully you have made some wins, or you're not necessarily a 2-win team, a 5-win team, a 6-win team, whatever it may be, but we weren't. And so these teams, all they had to do was run constantly. And that's inflated our defense's stats overall because it made it look like the yardage was going our way and that the points weren't really being scored against our defense and all that stuff. But it also made it an impact to Brian Burns' pressure rating, his sack rate, all that stuff, right? It's not to justify the performance, right? I think that he would agree that he didn't play his best football this year. But I also think it's fair to look at that and say that's a contributing factor to why it maybe looked as bad as it did.
Yeah, I mean, look, these defensive ends, particularly these pass rushing specialists, the numbers that, whether it's true or not, that sacks are the only, people say pressures are a big deal. There's other things in the game other than sacks, but sacks get you paid, right? That's what stands out. Is what people talk about. And while fans talk about it, it seems that teams honor it too when they pay guys by rewarding players that don't have just a lot of hurries, but also pay these guys that have a lot of sacks. But I think you're absolutely right, is that the Panthers were not in a position to be a good pass rushing team, period, because they never kept teams in poor down and distance situations. You actually never saw a lot of third and longs, right? Or, is that teams were getting chunks of running yards all day long. The offense would go out there. They would not play well. Then the defense would come back out there. Teams did not have to do a lot to beat the Carolina Panthers. And you can go back and look at the Kirk Cousins game. You can look at, I think, the Baker Mayfield game. And these guys had like 177 yards passing. And they would smoke the team in so many ways. So I don't think, is Brian Burns was going to have an inability to thrive just because, this team was never forcing offenses into a position where they had to feel like they had to throw the ball a lot, where they were behind schedule and, poor down in distance. But then also, and maybe again, Trey Boston, I'd love to have him on the podcast. I've been trying to drop hints at him. And C3 can continue, the C3 Army can continue to help us get him on the podcast. I just don't feel like it was. I think it's more of what CK was saying more than these double teams and chips and things like that.
Yeah, so this is what Trey Boston put out. He said, Panther Nation, I see y'all tweets and they're funny. By the way, this is him responding to PFF Panthers. basically saying the Panthers defense generated 199 total quarterback pressures this season. It ranked 32, with the league average being 316.09. So he responded to this saying, who was on the other side of him? Tell me who. O-line literally just set the protection his way, doubled or chipped this man every play. Y'all think we can go into next season without him? It's crazy. He would go on to say, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think the game plan makes any of the players' stats look impressive except Derek Brown. Stat-wise, everybody took a hit. Good defense, but nobody shined stat-wise. They did their jobs when needed, though. So basically, he's
he's kind of got a little bit of both in there.
Yeah, as you alluded to, he mentions all these amount of doubles and chips. Well, one, I would say that the last time that he did have a great player on the other side of him, which was Hassan Reddick, and he still didn't look as good as Hassan Reddick. And then, Tony, we were doing the film room this year, and we looked at most of the defensive snaps. There were so many near misses yet again after another season with Brian Burns on film, just narrowly missing a sack that one of these other bigger name guys would have eventually wrapped up on. Then there's also plays where a tight end will block him out of the play completely. And it's things like that are just like, yes, some of those plays are incredible. Some of them make him look like an average edge rusher in the NFL. And that's what makes the conversation so difficult, man.
Yeah, and I can tell you the player. I can tell you the player on the other side of him. It was YGM, and YGM actually had some statistically shining games. Missed him. Yeah, man, like he wasn't very far behind in Brian Burns in sacks on the season. So look, it's not a knock on Brian Burns. I think it's a poor situation. I think Trey Boston is right. I didn't scroll down. I got Trey Boston. That's twice he's got me. He said this. He said, "Look at the thread." I said, "Man, I got." You know how much time it is to go dig on all of this. But anyway, I think he's highlighting that this wasn't really a team where anybody was statistically going to shine except for Adam Thielen. Yeah. I mean, and Derek Brown did have a lot of tackles, so it's difficult. Let's go to Anthony and Charlotte. We'll take another call, and then we'll get back into the show.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Hope y'all boys are having a good Tuesday. Just wanted to call in and say what's up and give my thoughts on what's been going on so far. So as we saw today, Ben Johnson backed out of the jobs. He's coming back to Detroit. No surprise, honestly. I would say it's a little surprising because it's like you got jobs and people that are willing to pay you money to be their head coach and actually go into two really good situations. And the Seahawks and the Commanders, especially with all the capital they got, the draft capital and the cap room. But I also think, like he said, it was reported today that he wants to win a Super Bowl. And I mean, they were a couple of Dan Campbell mistakes away from being in the Super Bowl. So that's new. As for the coaches we've been hiring, basically we're just bringing in all the Bucks guys. That's okay if there's continuity there with the coach Dave Canales and Dan Morgan. That's okay. As I stated before, I'm going to remain neutral on everything that goes on this offseason. Now, of course, if we sign a player like Mike Evans or T. Higgins or Calvin Ridley, then I'm going to be happy because that's a proof that you're someone that we need to that nature. But as for the coaching staff perspective, I'm just going to go into it with, whatever happens, happens. I really don't know what to expect with this organization anymore. But I do want to bring up this thing about how Campton was Tepper's go-to guy in terms of like leaking information to him of what's going on. Why the hell do we have that in our organization? That just proves that we have an ownership to top-down issue, which I've been expressing to many people over this past couple months through the whole season. As much as a lot of our players underperformed, it's been such a toxic environment that it's almost like, man, you have so much working against you if you're a player, just with all the negative criticism that's going on. And then like you have coaches going behind other coaches' backs, telling Tepper this and that. I'm glad they're all gone. I just hope Tepper stays out of it. And I know the Super Bowl's 2 weeks away, but I might as well just give my pick now. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes, man. Again. Y'all praying on his downfall last week. You think it's going to happen again, man? He's winning his third ring in 6 years as a starter, man. In all seriousness, greatness we are witnessing, approved by Tom Brady. He's going to be the GOAT, mark my words. But anyways, I hope that, we can string together some good draft picks and free agency this offseason. Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding.
Thank you, Anthony. Good call. A lot.
Great Patrick Mahomes impression.
Yeah, I'm not picking against Patrick Mahomes. I did last week because I was a believer in the Ravens. I thought they were the most complete team in the NFL. But man, just one of those things. It's kind of like playing Tom Brady. Is like these are the guys that break the rules where it's just like them alone can dictate. Can beat anybody at any moment. And Patrick Mahomes is starting to has entered that conversation. Somebody mentioned too. We were just talking about Brian Burns. Is about bringing in Chase Young. No. Chase Young is a bum.
They're talking about sitting him in the Super Bowl.
They should. I don't know if you go and watch him. If you watch him specifically, he's easy to watch because he's got that long golden hair, right? But he can't. He's slow. He can't. He does nothing to these. Like he's getting no pressure on these guys. They have nothing. No fear of him. And then he doesn't even play hard.
Yeah.
It was a pathetic effort from him. Unimpressive. He's going to have to go out there and do what Jadeveon Clowney did and become a one-year mercenary and try to put up a big season if he wants to get a contract. He's going to be cheap as dirt, and I don't want anything to do with him. I'd rather try to bring Brian Burns back than to somehow find a way to get Chase Young on the team.
You go and you have Joey Bosa on the other side and you're not eating right now. Like that is like we talk about Brian Burns not having somebody on the other side of him to not take some of the pressure off of him. I mean, you have Joey Bosa on the other side, like, and you're still not really showing up in the biggest moments. And when he has an opportunity, the dude's literally like jogging, like he doesn't really care. It really is an interesting situation because this dude was a defensive rookie of the year. And now here we are, just 4 years later. And he somehow is just,
it sucks because who should have been defensive rookie of the year that year?
Jeremy Chin, dude.
Yeah. And another guy will be interested to see not somebody that looks like they're going to fit in Carolina. I know that he's probably seeking a fresh start. This is wild. Tom Pelissero, is that his name? Tom Pelissero.
Yeah.
He tweeted this out. Former Panthers, man, this is about Thomas Brown. It says former Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown has joined the Bears as their pass game coordinator. That's not wild. This is the wild part. Brown, 37, was voted the NFL's number 2 offensive coordinator in a recent NFLPA player poll.
That's just
ridiculous.
What Trey Boston said about the top 100 players, I think also pertains. Did you see that?
Yeah, he said that most of the guys throw it away. Most guys vote for themselves a lot. But come on, is like what is this? He just got a lot of friends because there is nothing that even puts him in the round. If he's the number 2 offensive coordinator, according to these players, he didn't even get an offensive coordinator job. And there's 4 positions in the NFC South this year.
Can I ask you, is this like, how back in the day, I feel like it's, I don't know, it may be the same. These kids may still be as brutal as they were back in the day. But when there was when you wanted to bully somebody, one of the things that they would do is vote for them as prom queen, or prom king, and they're
Tony loves it.
You know what I mean?
He's like, what a great idea.
So back in the day, that's what they would do to almost bully people, like people who clearly were not prom king or prom queen. And it wasn't like nowadays TikTok version where it's like they're just really trying to be nice and they want to create a nice viral moment to be able to put on their TikTok and go become TikTok famous and whatnot. I'm not saying that some of those feelings aren't genuine, but that's what it really boils down to with a lot of these things. Now
So
it's,
mean.
back in the day, it was we're being mean for the sake of being mean and voting somebody in that clearly doesn't deserve
Like the most prettiest, and they're just, like smallest forehead, and then you
think that's what's happening here with Thomas Brown?
I don't know. But he is going to be reuniting, it says, with Shane Waldron, who were both on McVay's staff together in LA. I don't know why who would vote for this, right? I mean, did Adam Thielen just write his name in 9,000 times? I mean, I'm just curious. Is it, I mean, he must have, maybe he's just got a lot of friends. Yeah, player friends in the NFL and relationships. I don't know. That's just kind of bizarre. It's like,
I wonder if he campaigned.
Bizarre. I mean, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And look, and I'm kind of irritated by all the people that keep saying that he got a raw deal. Yeah, certainly is that he didn't have a situation where we truly get to see him grow as a coordinator from the beginning to the end. And he did get flip-flopped around, and people are like, I mean, there were people who wanted to bring him back. And look, as I would say this is that, I mean, everybody got a raw deal in Carolina this year. They sucked, but I didn't see anything other than you just want to believe in what you believed before the season started.
Yeah.
To say that his offense or, anything, I just can't fathom that if you're that gifted that you didn't have more of a positive influence on this team. When it came to game plans and different things like that. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's get back into the show. Speaking of people talking about the Carolina Panthers, Greg Olsen, I saw somebody put this is maybe it was his name, Emmanuel Ache or something like that. I think he said that Greg Olsen was given a master class in the booth in the NFC Championship. He will no longer be with Fox in the number one role, and not going to be with Fox, period. I think he's probably going to be courted by CBS or ESPN going forward, or one of the other networks, you would think. But because Tom Brady is going to be taking, he's already got a $330 million deal in place with Fox to take that position that Greg Olsen had. So Greg Olsen says, he's open to a lot. He really believes that he put out some really good tape, which he did. I think he was very informative. I think he is kind of like, what you thought Tony Romo was going to be until Tony Romo just kind of, a lot of people are irritated with Tony Romo's calls and the way that he handles the color commentary at this point. But Greg Olsen sat down with Joe Person for one-on-one because the hardest yard, I think they're having Greg Olsen was having an event for his charity going back to what is it, the Levine Hospital in Charlotte Children's Hospital, right? Yeah, the hardest yard in honor of the things that happened with his children and how important that institution was for them. So he sat down with Joe Person, and he was asked about the Carolina Panthers because a lot of people believe that Greg Olsen has a future in the front office. Some people I saw made a reference to the trajectory. I think this was actually Ricky Raines that said this. I saw it this morning on Twitter, that if you look at who's the GM for John Lynch. John Lynch was in the booth the year before he took over as the GM for the San Francisco 49ers and hired Kyle Shanahan and kind of developed a glowing, where he kind of gushed over Kyle Shanahan at times throughout that season. I think that would have been the Atlanta Super Bowl run that would have happened. So a lot of people, I think Ricky Raines was suggesting that maybe there's a similar trajectory of Greg Olsen going into the front office. And a lot of people have been impressed with his football knowledge, and as he showcased it as a color commentator. Joe Person asked him this: Dave Canales was with you in the tight end room in Seattle in 2020. I know he has a lot of energy and has done good things with Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, but he hasn't done it for very long as a coordinator. Any concerns? This was Greg Olsen's response per Joe Person, The Athletic. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Great content, Joe Person. Great beat writer. We're lucky to have him for the Carolina Panthers on the Carolina Panthers beat. Greg Olsen's response was, 2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off. Quote, I really like Dave. I got to spend a full season with him. He spent every single day in our tight ends room. He was a passing game coordinator. My understanding, in the years prior, he spent time in different rooms. I think that was part of him learning different positions and continuing to build. I think that was the philosophy him and Pete Carroll had as far as expanding him as a coach. We both love talking ball. We love trading ideas. He was very open-minded, very smart. He's got a lot of energy. He's ultra positive. That's kind of their trademark there in Seattle. That's Pete. When he got the job in Tampa to go to be the offensive coordinator, I was really happy for him. He had gotten passed up a few times for promotion to offensive coordinator in Seattle. I think he was ready to spread his wings and be on a different staff, different perspectives, and be able to make his impact. I think he did a really good job helping Tampa Bay get to the playoffs. Was no small feat. I thought he made Baker play well, as Baker's played maybe in his entire career. So, I mean, that's a positive review. I don't think he was saying that. I mean, he doesn't come out there and say, these guys got the right guy. This is I love this hire or anything. And I think, CK, you were the one that said it, is that's just kind of the tone we all kind of have when it comes to Canales or anybody we're going to hire him. And that's why we were kind of fading on Ben Johnson, because we thought that it was going to come with too much celebrity power, too much expectation. And then we would have been overexcited, and that could lead to, I think this is creating a good environment. Hopefully Dan Morgan and these hires and the way that fans are looking forward to this, that they'll give Dave Canales the appropriate time to develop as a coach. And I am not a one and done type of guy that thinks it's good to fire a guy right out the gate. But I think things were so bad in Carolina, it was the right move to move on from Frank Reich. I think you're going to have to be far more patient with this new staff going forward. And they brought him in for one single reason, CK, and that is because of the work he's done with quarterbacks in the past. And he is there to get Bryce Young on the right track.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
Speaking of that, they asked Greg Olsen about Bryce Young and, how Dave Canales is going to have to try to handle him as a player and what his future is going to look like in Carolina. He started out talking about Cam, and he said basically, and I don't have this in this, but he was like, look, as people want to compare him to Cam, I don't really feel like people have compared him a ton to Cam entirely, but I think what his point was is that just, man, Cam had so much instant success, and Bryce Young didn't. And he said this is that his game is just a lot different than Cam's, and that game might take more time to translate into the NFL than a guy who is 6'5" and can run over people or throw a football through a piece of plywood. He said this, the pocket needs to be right for Bryce. That's just the style that he's played since he was in high school. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in high school and college and so forth and so on and so forth. He's going to need guys around him. He's going to need an offensive line. He's going to need a system that plays to his strengths. And I think that was a little bit of the disconnect. He's going to need, Greg Olsen says, some things to go his way. But to have just an all-out indictment and say his rookie year is what he's going to be the rest of his career, I don't think it's fair. the coaching situation with what we were trying to ask him to do schematically, the personnel around him, then losing your coach halfway through the year, it was about as bad as a situation for a rookie quarterback as one could work within. Let's take a deep breath and see what this next year or two has before we have a clear picture. And this is why I think we like Greg Olsen so much in the booth, is because he's informative, but it also is, I mean, it's kind of spot on.
Reasonable. Yeah. Reasonable. I also like that he's saying we still when it comes to talking about the game plan. We've got to be doing this. We got to do that. That tells me he's still bought in to the Panthers. I know he never really wasn't bought in, but that part is, you know, I don't know what it is. I'm a sentimental guy, and I like to see when legends come back and they actually feel like they were a part of Panthers Nation and that we're family, you know. But I do agree. I think everything he said was 100% correct. And I like that he also, you know, acknowledged. I mean, he's not overly excited. He's doing exactly what we all should be doing, and that is let's keep our minds open, but at the same time, it's okay to stay a bit reserved.
Yeah, I think this is maybe a dose of reality for Carolina Panther fans, as we have been on cloud nine when it came to drafting Bryce Young to start, the superstar coaching staff. Next up, Greg Olsen was asked how if he was in the front office, would fix the Carolina Panthers. And this is going to drive some fans crazy. He says this. He was asked, if you're the GM, what are your 3 offseason moves for the Panthers? He said, look, as everyone gets really excited over big time number 1 receiver, we've seen in the playoffs, look at Green Bay. They have some young receivers that are crazy talented, but none of them are first round picks. They didn't go out and sign some big time free agent. They have a great system. They drafted really well. Look at the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, an all-pro player, but he wasn't a top 5 pick. He wasn't some high-priced guy. He's a guy they developed. He's a slot receiver. He's big and strong. He's got the intangibles, and he's playing in a very friendly offense to the skill players and the quarterbacks. I don't think you need to panic and go out and pay a $25 million player to pay $25 million to whoever the top free agent receiver is just to check that box. I don't think that they're one player away. I think it's going to be a roster depth. It's going to great drafting, signing the right free agents, and then it's going to be about coaching and playing to the strengths of the guys you already have under contract. I think you saw Jiro Evero do that on defense this year. They developed a lot of talent on defense, a lot of guys that weren't expected to play. And I would argue that they play well above expectations. That's coaching. That's what the NFL is. And you're not always going to inherit an amazing roster. You've got to make the best of what you have. And I think that's what Dave's approach will be. Cody, how do you feel about him saying you don't need to go and get maybe T. Higgins, Mike Evans? These guys aren't the appropriate move for the Carolina Panthers this offseason.
I mean, listen, most of my time watching football this past couple of years, I've been of that same belief that really you should be drafting wide receivers and building up that talent in-house rather than going out and paying top dollar for one that is going to eat up so much of your cap. But I don't know. I understand his reasoning. And like I said, I've agreed with him for the most part. But I just feel like, man, we need something. We need some kind of connection for Bryce Young going into this next season that fans can feel better about. Because it damn sure isn't Jonathan Mingo. We don't reasonably know if Adam Thielen's going to be returning after his comments about talking about how things change. And I don't know, you could draft someone else this year, but again, you're talking about hitting on these rookie wide receivers that to this point have not worked out very well for Carolina. So I would like to see maybe a T. Higgins come here. Maybe Calvin Ridley is someone who would be on the free agent list that the Panthers could bring in, that he was in the same draft class as DJ Moore. I don't know. I think I'd rather go out and get someone.
I tend to agree with him here, though, is that I think he's spot on saying you're not one piece away. You know, you look at some of those teams like the Buffalo Bills that went and traded for Stephon Diggs, and they were close, and all of a sudden their offense started to take off. They got the they were in a position that needed to start to happen. The Carolina Panthers have a lot of issues, so I don't think a top tier wideout in free agency is going to fix all those issues right out the gate. And I think I understand what you're saying is that, look, it's going to be difficult to work through the draft. You don't got a first round pick and you got some different things. And this isn't going to immediately create the best opportunity in that wide receiver room or the best talent. But I think he understands that this is a multi-year process for the Carolina Panthers going forward. And it's like, is that is kind of a short-sighted goal. And I'm surprised he didn't reference the Houston Texans a little bit with Nico Collins and who did they get? The little guy. Tank Dell and
Noah Brown.
Right. And he does say you're going to have to go out and get the right free agent. So he's not saying like you just bring back the guys and you run it back and you just have to just wait and be content with nothing. But I think he's saying like you've got to build this team with a longer vision going forward. And I think, you're really talking about allocate more attention to the offensive line, and you're probably looking 2 years down the road before maybe you're eligible to go out and pay that big time receiver when you're ready to make your splash and you feel like you're one piece away. But the Carolina Panthers are going to need to find somebody through the draft over time. I'm not out on Mingo, right? Man, that didn't have a great season. I've told you guys over and over that's very difficult for a lot of these mid-round. It's very rare that these players come in their rookie years and have so much success. And I think the problem for Mingo is similar to the problem with Bryce Young. And that is that when you see somebody else on another team who is a rookie having so much success, you think of Zay Flowers, you think of Tank Dell, you think of who's the guy for Indy also had from Carolina. He had a great season, whatever they drafted. And so not only did Mingo not have a great rookie showing, and there was a lot of problems with not only his play, but look, I mean, I think Greg Olsen would probably talk about the coaching being a big part of Mingo's lack of development there. But then you had those other examples that then make you feel worse on Mingo. Like when we got Jonathan Mingo, I don't think, as we were optimistic because of some of the things, like his physicality. A lot of people said he was playing the wrong position, that he really should be in the slot. But Adam Thielen, because he's, the veteran guy, he's going to be the appropriate person to put in the slot there. So maybe you get him in the slot if Adam Thielen doesn't return. Maybe he makes some progression there. Maybe some better coaching helps. But I didn't think that all of a sudden Jonathan Mingo was going to be like offensive rookie of the year or something.
Right.
But he just had there's a lot of visually bad plays that but nobody was safe on this Panthers team. So it's like this. I mean, if you think about all the criticism Bryce Young got, Jonathan Mingo is going to get some hate.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you see so many, like you alluded to, so many other rookie wide receivers that are able to come into the NFL and have that instant success. Yeah, dominate, man, and just nothing of the sort from Jonathan Mingo. Again, we were hoping that he would be an AJ Brown type of player. I mean, that's literally.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I think wide receiver is a lot. I think
he has to be a better route runner. He ran the laziest routes that you've ever seen. He got bullied at the line of scrimmage when he had to run block. He just needs a lot more to his game. I
think the Panthers may have put him in too quickly. I think the Panthers may have been a little too optimistic about him. Like maybe he was given too much right out in the gate. Basically he was a starter from day one in some ways, and I don't know if that was the appropriate move where you had some other guys. I guess Demir Bird got hurt and some different things like that. But the Smith, what's the return guy? I don't know. Maybe they gave him too much. You just said, hey, we expect you to be great from day one. And maybe that was a coaching error on their part. You're listening to the longest running Panthers podcast. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast. The number's 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button. Cody, how about we take another call before we get back into Greg Olsen in the booth or any? We got a lot more to talk about, but we're rocking and rolling and moving. Let's plow through a call or two. Let's go to, hey, I mean, you want to talk about if Dave Canales is the most upbeat, optimistic guy on the Carolina Panthers, I got to say, D from Sanford, you might be it for the C3 Panthers podcast.
What's going on, my C3 family? D. Sanford, North Carolina. Shout out to the great Tony Dunn, to the homie Cody, like the Cody. K. Shut the hell up, Panther Pickle. Muscle marinara, that effing guy. The awesome Crispin Ledane, and everybody needs a G, baby. So, you know, we've kind of had some days to sit back and process so far the state of the Carolina Panthers. And even though, you know, I'm keeping a very optimistic outlook, I'm always about progress and so forth. The one thing that I'm taking teeth in that I could really be fooling myself, but at least right now I'm enjoying fooling myself, is that, like, if you notice, Canales brought in his man for OC. I think a guy that was the assistant head coach for the Buccaneers, if I'm not mistaken. Don't really want to give no bad information, but I think he bringing him in. And then, you know, he got Tabor out of there and some of the others. So I'm really thinking that Tampa's taking a step back and letting these gentlemen do it their way, at least early on. And I'm hoping that that is the case. I think that we can start to see, even if it's just incremental change and incremental progress, hey, it's better than where we was headed 2-15. Hey, anything helps. I'm interested to see how the rest of the staff is going to develop. And, you know, this is that real awkward part of the season when, you know, your team's out of it and there's a lot of ifs, coaching changes again, and you're just ready to know stuff. So that's just really where I'm sitting at. Just wanted to shout y'all out. The longest running Panther podcast that's out there. The dopest Panther podcast out there. I love every single one of y'all. Hey, keep pounding.
Keep pounding, brother. Yo, another incredible call by D from Sanford. And he made a lot of good points, man. I mean, once you examine this history, brother, I think we have a reason to be optimistic, man. I really do. And I know that we've been optimistic seemingly every year going into the season. But, hey, that's all we got to hang on to, man. I like what they're building. I think they were moving in the right direction. Let's just hope that we can get some talent on this team.
Yeah, I think, I mean, look, is the optimism for us at this moment is not the optimism that everything is going to work out and the Panthers are about to have the next best thing ever, the next Sean McVay or, you know, Kyle Shanahan. But I think the optimism has to be this is like, we have to move forward, right? I mean, the team has to continue to move forward. And to be honest, as we look at Ben Johnson return to the Lions, this is Adam Schefter tweeted this out. Ben Johnson was not the head coaching lock that people thought, and his asking price spooked some teams. Right. And I think there might be we might find if this, hopefully, I mean, obviously on this podcast, we're talking about the Panthers every week in this long form setting, and we'll be here next week and the week after. We've got to find reasons to believe, right? Or not find reasons to believe, but obviously our discussion has turned over every stone, it feels like, under the David Tepper regime. And, you know, this might feel like the most natural hire we've had in a while, right? And what I mean by that is you didn't get the shiny toy. You know, it's kind of like my son's going to go out there, and I'm trying to because he's a good kid, makes great grades, very responsible, way different than his dad in so many ways, so much better. I'm so blessed that my kids are better than I am, and he is certainly that. But, you know, I mean, I'm not going to go out there and buy him a Beamer. A, I can't afford it, number one. But B is like, it's just not appropriate. It's not the appropriate trajectory for a 16-year-old kid in his first car to have a brand new car. Or to, you know what I mean? That's just like, especially, but.
He'd be one cool dad, though, to get him a Beamer. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, if I was David Tepper, I could do that. And what David Tepper has done is gone and bought the shiniest car, right? Yeah. He has gone out there and got the coolest toy. And instead of getting the, you know, kind of the natural progression of 16-year-old kid, you know, he's going to bang that sucker up. There's going to be nicks and bruises and probably accidents, and God bless, hopefully they're not major, and hopefully everybody stays safe. But, he's taking these big swings. Maybe, I don't know if Frank Reich was necessarily a big swing, but he didn't go out there and spend bukus of money on Ben Johnson. And maybe Ben Johnson wasn't interested in it. We don't know exactly what it was, but this kind of feels like, hey, a team that right now, all we can do is put one foot in front of the other and move forward. And you're hoping that, that this is a step forward rather than backwards, like it has been for the last couple of years. Let's go. Let's see what we got up next.
C3, what's up? This is Josh. Always in the chat, first time calling.
Josh, what's up, buddy?
I just wanted to shout you guys out, man. Y'all do a phenomenal job. Love the show. I work second shift, so I don't always catch every one of them, but y'all are great. Listen,
Appreciate
I think that we're doing fairly well right now. This feels a lot different than last season. It was like David Tepper just hiring all these big names. This one feels more like a family.
Oh, this is right on time.
Now it's bringing in his people. We got to get rid of that Hunger Games situation. Other than that, I'm going to say one other thing before I get cut off. I think that Malik Washington, the wide receiver, is going to fall. That is my prediction. I had Tank Dell last offseason. We passed up on him. This guy, if you go watch some film on him, reminds me of Tank Dell and Steve Smith. I'm telling you right now, that is the guy we should get. We can get him in either the second or third round. Anyways, that's my opinion. Love the show. I'm going to shout out Deez and Pickle also. Tony, Cody, PK, and Greg, wherever he is, keep pounding.
Great call. And that
appreciate it, man.
Right on time, talking about the Carolina Panthers coaching staff, the type of hire, I think, and the appropriate hire in some ways. And luckily, like CK brought up at the beginning of the show, we may have won the coaching hiring for the type of guy we were looking at since Slowick, Ben Johnson are returning. And again, maybe temper some of those expectations and build this thing, authentically. And like what Greg Olsen is talking about is like, you're not just a coach away. You're not just a player away, right? There's a lot that the Carolina Panthers are going to have to get better at. A lot of work for Dan Morgan, a lot of work for Dave Canales, a lot of work for all these players. So just keep chugging ahead. He brings up this is Cody's territory. As man, you guys are going to have to start really looking at some of these college players.
Yeah.
And actually we'll skip to this. GC, weren't the Dave Canales and them putting in some work? I think Dan Morgan and him, we had a picture of it. Here it is. Panthers tweeted this already at work. I guess, is this the Shriner Bowl?
Oh, this weekend is the Reese Senior Bowl.
Okay.
A lot, they're already doing the O-line, D-line drills, the wide receiver drills. People are already posting clips. Luke McCaffrey is out there, Christian's younger brother, running drills. So that's going on right now. And dude, they're out there scouting the players. They're already on it. And I do like the fact that Dan comes from a scouting background, because I think that's what we need at the top of our organization, someone that can identify the talent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, let's go to the next call.
Hey, guys. I know everybody keeps talking about keeping Evil Rowe around about the idea of getting this compensatory draft pick if he gets a head coach job, but honestly, I don't see him getting one being the defensive coordinator for us next year. And I think after getting passed over twice, we ought to let him go somewhere. If he wants to go somewhere, maybe trade him for a 6th round or a 5th round pick or something. But I think it would do a lot of good within the NFL community and coaching community to go ahead and build up the goodwill and let him go somewhere. Like I'm hearing he wants to go to Green Bay and work for Matt LaFleur. They were together under McVay with the Rams. And let him go do that and let him have his chance to go build his highest profile he can.
Sure.
Because God knows Green Bay will probably be in the playoffs next year. Who knows, maybe even in the NFC Championship game. And that might finally get him his shot at a coaching job as a head coach, because I don't think he's going to get it on a losing team. And unfortunately, we are going to have a winning year next year, even if everything goes perfect. Just wonder your thoughts about that. Thanks. Bye.
We'll continue to monitor the Ejiro Evero situation, and might be a good chance. He's interviewed twice with the Seahawks, so there's a good chance that all of a sudden we lose Evero, and that this Dave Canales is looking for a defensive coordinator out there. Now, Connor Orr, who has followed Dave Canales, who have also been man, I guess these guys, when they have 100,000 followers or whatever they are, is probably their DMs are just exploded. So, it's like probably getting lost in that. But I'd love to get him on the show to talk, because he's followed Canales, and he wrote some of his early pieces before he was hired a head coach, before these guys are kind of digging into him. He said lots. This was January 25th, so 5 days ago. He said lots in the air right now, but I pay attention to names like Leslie Frazier and Tom Cable in Carolina for some of the defensive staff. Man, maybe we could get Pete Carroll, defensive coordinator.
Ron Rivera, Pete Carroll. I mean, who would you prefer, Ron or Pete?
Ron.
Neither.
I mean, if you're talking about just those two, Ron.
Yeah. Really? Then Pete?
Yeah.
Why? Because Pete's just going to be the celebrity. And like everybody's
it's a big shadow.
Yeah,
it's a big shadow for
Canales. Up all the air in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason that not a lot of head coaches hire their former head coach as like Ron did it once, with Norv Turner, but it's a pretty rare thing that you're gonna see head coaches, hire a guy who used to be their boss.
Yeah, I don't mean it's not really the appropriate role. I don't think Ron would be good for the Carolina. It's just too much baggage, too much, things in the past. Aries Claire, who is on Twan Don's podcast, she says Leslie Frazier is a culture guy. If Evero is not retained, that would be an interesting direction to see the Panthers go. Frazier was a dark horse candidate of mine for a head coaching opportunity as well. I think you're going to need a guy too that's a team player.
Yeah.
If you go out there and you get, if for some reason we're unable to retain Ejiro Evero, and that's a guy who that head coaching cycle has passed them by a little bit, who their idea of the prime job for them is a defensive coordinator position.
Yeah.
So I don't know if a guy like why is his name escape? Former coach of the Tennessee Titans now, who we wanted as a Vrabel. I don't even know if that's a good like even it's
that
just like
still the same thing. I think that's a shadow thing in my opinion.
Agreed. Especially too when if you run into the adversity that we have to in some ways anticipate that the Carolina Panthers
it's always going to be Vrabel's here.
Yeah. I mean, you should have hired him anyway. Let's just go ahead and make him interim and hire him again, that type of thing. All right, let's go to the next call.
Hey, guys. I know everybody keeps talking about keeping Evero around.
Is this the one did I just play that one?
Yes.
Okay, next call right here.
Hey, this is Josh again. Can't believe I'm calling in twice, but I got to do it. All right, listen, let me talk about the Bryce Young situation. Look, I have been pretty good. I am 45. I know that is a current picture. I'm telling you right now, I watched the Panthers since the beginning. Bryce Young, what I saw this past season, he's going to be good. You just got to give him an offensive line, some weapons, and a good coach.
Everything.
I had watched the games, I watched the beatdowns, and I saw everybody dumping on him. I'm telling you right now, give this man some people around him and a good coach, and he is going to be legit. All right. Peace out, C3. Love you.
I love the call. I mean, obviously, this is why I like Dan Morgan as the hire guys for the GM position. Is everybody saying clean house, clean house, clean house? But I think, Dan Morgan is the appropriate guy to be the general manager in the first place, maybe over a guy like Scott Fitter going back 3 years ago. That history, that connection to him in Carolina, it's not a heartstring thing, but I think it's a care, is like a connection, is an investment in the team and the organization, and really trying to get them to a place where he's tasted almost success, but the failed at the greatest stage in the Super Bowl. They're so close. So I think he would love to have his name associated with, the Panthers getting that Lombardi. So I think he would be in it. I think his heart's in the right place, is going to be in the right place. But I think it's really important is whether Bryce Young is going to be great or not in the future. He is our future. He's our near future, at least for the next 2 years. Yeah. We've invested a lot. And I think it's important to have a guy who was there and when you drafted him and remembering why you drafted him at that moment. Just because things didn't go perfect in his good first season, just because Stroud, was hit lightning in a bottle in Houston, you got to have a memory of why you did this in the first place. Like, it's kind of like a marriage going through problems. It's like, why did we get married in the first place? We got to remember the good things just because we're hitting a rocky patch here. And I think Dan Morgan brings that to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I agree. I think the Dan Morgan offering some connection to Bryce Young, I think is a smart move. Again, not my first move, but I think there is the glass half full mindset that that's the positive if you're looking at Dan Morgan.
I think Josh is right too. I mean, as we saw some, I think despite the struggles that Bryce Young had this season, we all can see that it was a total failure on this team, not a Bryce Young failure. It wasn't like, it's like, look, could he have played better? Yes. Could he have, did he live up to the hopes that we had? Probably not, or no. And it was hard seeing CJ Stroud over there doing, having arguably the greatest rookie season a quarterback has ever had. But I think you saw some real toughness out of the kid. He didn't get hurt, thank God.
Yeah.
He got beat up. And I think you did see some moments where you're like, hey, this is, if you get these things that any quarterback kind of needs, except for those Cam Newtons, Josh Allen type players, that I don't think I came out of it going, he can't play in this league. Or I know I didn't. I didn't have that feeling. It was just like, hey, this is kind of who he is, short Alex Smith.
Yeah, man.
Here you go.
I think the reason why it's a hard pill to swallow is because you traded up to number one for what is perceivingly average to hoping to be, that game manager style quarterback. But that's our quarterback, man. We're not bitching. I just think I know there are a lot of fans that they're not going to believe in Bryce Young until he goes out there and proves it. And I think right now there's a lot of people that do believe Bryce Young is a bust. Some people think I'm one of them. I swear I'm not. But Bryce didn't do anything to inspire any kind of confidence. And with the type of expectations that we had, were they too high? Absolutely. That goes without saying. But just to not have so much for fans to be able to buy into in the future, that was a tough blow considering all we gave up for him. Now the entire conversation has moved to what can we put around him over the course of this offseason to help make his time here in Carolina a little easier. I just hope Dan Morgan can do it, man. I'm pulling for him.
Jay Doe, I'm not really sure why you're going so hard in the paint in the chat right now. So look, it's it's okay to have opinions and have good fun. I don't know if it's necessarily the best strategy, just attack, charge or block.
I didn't even realize he was going.
And it's just a little hard in the paint. I don't know. I haven't been following it closely, so let's we're building a community here together.
Yeah, we can talk everything we want about football, but don't talk about other people and keep the personal shit out of it. And everybody's going to be all right.
Let's go to Joey the Blind Panther, aka Wakanda Forever.
Hey guys, it's the Ground How, aka Joey the Blind Panther. And I want to talk to you guys about Dave Canales, just like everybody else wants to talk about Dave Canales. You know what? For what we're trying to do, we're trying to build around Bryce Young. You really can't get much of a better hire outside of guys that aren't going to want to come here because, reasons. But Dave Canales, look at the track record he's had. He's taken two quarterbacks that no one really believed in Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, and turned them into playoff quarterbacks. And we all know why Baker Mayfield wasn't believed in. Oh, believe me, do we know it all too well? And Dave Canales took that bum and turned him into, and put him at the center of an offense that put up 31 points in a playoff game. Granted, it was a falling apart Eagles team, but it was still an offense to put up 31 points in a playoff game. Okay? Last year with Geno Smith, wild card playoff game. They didn't win because they were playing the 49ers, and they got beat because that's what everybody does. But, and now I want you to look at height of the quarterbacks. Geno Smith, 6'3". Baker Mayfield, 6'1". Bryce Young, 5'10". But I think he has the mental sharpness of a veteran, but he's not up to spec. His knowledge isn't up to spec on some things. And I think Dave Canales can really help Bryce Young, really help get the most out of him. Take a guy that no one believes in right now, and take him to the promised land. Take us to the promised land. Believe me, we'll go to the promised land with freaking El Chapo, as long as we get there, we don't care. But I love the hire. I think it's great for the Panthers, especially our offense. And have you ever heard of this guy named Mike Evans? I think he used to play for Dave Canales, and I think he has 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and we're trying to get him to come here. Anyway, guys. Wow.
I really can't see Mike Evans coming here, to be honest.
I agree.
Why not? If
his entire career in Tampa, he's a lock Hall of Famer. I just don't think. I mean, is like, if anything, he wants to go to a contender.
Yeah, he's going to go to a contender, but I also think he's built that chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And let's be real about it. He's not going to go to a team that has a quarterback that isn't proven right now. Like,
and he was already kind of voicing his concerns about that when Baker got there. Right. Is you either going to give me the money to stay here, or I'm going to go get it on a team that is competing. And it was just that he got another 1,000-yard season because they ran that offense through him so much. I think it was good. I just said, it just seems like it would. I would hate for a guy that is. I'm sure Tampa Bay fans would not be happy with Mike Evans and his legacy if he went to a division rival like that. The other thing I wanted to mention about Dave Canales' offense, and I'm really excited about it for Carolina in some ways. And, obviously I'm excited about any offense in Carolina because we haven't had any. But I think that so much we get locked into buzzwords and conversations about, like, it's just like it's motion, matching motion. You know what I mean? Like you heard Thomas Brown talk about these things a lot, and they sound good. But it does seem like the flavor of the week kind of discussion of what's, and what I've liked about Canales and some of the things that he's talked about is that, and maybe they're just generic things that people are going to like. But one of the things he says is we like our offense to look the same on same structure on plays, but then become something different. So defenses have harder times identifying like this type of look, right? So you give them looks that are very similar, but the actual plays become very different in their structure throughout the game. I think that's a cool concept instead of just saying we got to move motion, we got to get, so I think that's one. I think the other is that really talks about, and I think this is the most important thing for a coaching staff. And if you look at even, I think if you look at Mike McDaniels in Miami, is that, yes, he has these guys that are speedsters that are different things that, and you can just be like, we're going to pass it 9 million times a game and just, but I think he continues to play to his players' strengths a lot. And I think that's what real coaches do is that, or the best coaches is they don't become system guys. They don't become so locked into something where they got to find players to match their system, but they get good players and they marry their offensive ideas and philosophies, but to the strength of those players, right? Yeah. And so you see him did that with Baker Mayfield. You saw he talked a lot about this and doing the things that Baker does well. You heard him in his Tampa Bay, like in that little movie thing they were putting on. He talked a lot about that. And I think that's really important in coaching, period. And we had some people talking earlier. Greg Olsen was even a critic about how the offensive scheme didn't do Bryce any favors, right? And I don't know. I feel bad being so hard on Frank Reich, but I don't know if Frank Reich really had a scheme. It just didn't really feel like there was any real continuity to what they were trying to do. And if there was any, it wasn't really playing to the strengths of his players. And so I'm hoping that's what some of the benefits of Dave Canales can bring to this, instead of just thinking I'm the offensive genius, I feel like probably Andy Reid does this well.
Putting your players in a position to be successful, making those adjustments. I feel like we haven't had a head coach that can make meaningful adjustments in years and years. Prime Rivera, maybe, and even then it was iffy.
Yeah. So we're hoping, because players win the games. Is that, yes, Andy Reid, these guys are all great head coaches, and obviously Kyle Shanahan's and these guys are getting a lot out of their players, but the players win the games. And I think that, you can see that what Kyle Shanahan has done is he's had success with Matt Ryan. He's had success with RG3. He's had success with Brock Purdy now, and they're all different players. And you've got to find a way to get to move the ball, to score and create opportunities for these guys. And I'm hoping that Canales is going to bring that to the table. That's all we can hope at this point. I think this might be Muscles Marinara, who is next up on the shirt list. We're gonna have to make a shirt. Maybe it's this fucking guy. It might be the shirt.
C3 Paisans, how you doing? I'm in the car driving home now. But listen to the show. Decided to call in. Heard Anthony call in talking about fucking having rats in the building. That's how you know fucking Pepper ain't fucking Italian. Fucking hiring rats. Fucking rat bastard prick fucking jerk off Jones over here. That's a major fucking problem, in my opinion. And that can't happen again. That just can't. Hopefully with this the Mint Street Boys fucking coaching staff here, all these good looking fellas, hopefully they can get a fucking cap on that bullshit.
Oh man,
and,
it's like
no
a boy
fucking
band,
rats, bro.
We're gonna have to make a song.
That's fucked up. Fucking bald headed fucking prick. Anyway, fucking Super Bowl, huh? Who's excited? Not me. Fuck. Anyway, I'm gonna give you my pick. I really don't give a fuck. Probably the fucking Chiefs, but yeah. Anyway, I gotta go.
This fucking guy.
We need to do a parody, but it's Dave Tepper singing a song about hiring them and be like, it could be from the Backstreet Boys, be like, "You are my higher."
There you go. Yeah, you're the one. It sounds like you're the only one that out of this group that can pull it off.
Nah.
The boys are back in town. All right, let's see. Josh wants a little bit more.
Hey, man, this is Josh one more time. I'm so sorry I called in 3 times.
You don't need to apologize, brother.
Awesome. Kind of hope you don't, actually.
Making up for lost time.
As a Panthers fan for a long time, and you guys too, man, we are in a fucking nightmare right now. I mean, if we're just going to keep it fucking real, man, this is terrible what has happened. But, however, having said that, you know, I'm pretty excited. I think that we might have potentially gotten a hungry young coach who actually could be the steal out of all of these head coaches. Now, my number one was Harbaugh, but we knew he was never coming here. Also, you know, if you are on this podcast and you guys we are the hardcore Panther fans. G Baby ain't always wrong. Just letting y'all know. He does have some good things. But Anthony,
That
too,
is the truth.
even though me and him argued, I was right about what I said last year to you, Anthony. Just got to throw this in there. Listen, man, I said Bryce Young did not elevate his wide receivers, and C.J. Stroud did. And you blasted me for it. Now, that is the truth. But Bryce Young is our franchise guy. Trust me on this when I say that. I saw him throwing some darts, and we ain't got nobody who can catch. I saw Chark drop 4 balls that were 60-yard passes. Y'all can't tell me Bryce Young doesn't have an arm. Listen, we're going to be okay. We have to have patience. This podcast is the shit. All right? We're going to be
Appreciate
okay,
you, Josh.
fellas. Everybody is going to make it through this. This year and next year are critical. If Dan Morgan is as good as he seems to be and as good as I think he will be at evaluating players, then we should be legit. And as long as we can draft well in the next 2 drafts, we're going to be just fine. We're going to pick up another wide receiver this year. We're going to probably have to lose Burns. I mean, I don't see any way around that unless they restructure Moton or, you know, there's some things that are going to happen. But keep pounding people, you know.
Yeah.
Don't get in your feelings so much. You got to let it play out. These things take a little time. You know, that's how life goes, isn't it? It's not like a real quick fix for what Scott Fitter did to us. I mean, let's be honest about that. Worst GM probably in the NFL history. This dude made all the wrong decisions.
Thank you for the call. Great stuff. And shout out to Panax. He said, can we get a custom throwing drink emoji?
Ooh,
great idea. And the answer is yes. I will be working on that. And he also said, oops, he did the oops, he did it again. To do that for David Tepper.
Oops, I threw a drink in.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's get to the next call. We're rocking and rolling tonight, folks.
Real quick, what's going on, everybody? This is me, C-Dog, 1983.
C-Dog, what up?
But, real quick, man, shout out to the C3 Podcast. Shout out to Panther Pickle, G-Baby, everybody, man. Shout out to all the members of the C3 Podcast. The longest running podcast on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe whenever you come in here for this great content. They go live every Tuesday and every Sunday during the season. And they got the game recap during the season, and they got the free for all on Friday. But you gotta excuse me, I'm a little bit liberated right now. But real quick, man, for everybody talking about stop talking down on the team and everything and all this BS. Man, we've been sorry for the last 6 years or whatever. However long Tepper has owned this team. So don't tell me to sit here and just take this shit. Steve Wilson, goddamn McCaffrey about to be in the goddamn Super Bowl. You know, while we sitting at home watching this shit. Like, man, until they got them prove me otherwise, man, we fucking suck. You know what I'm saying? So don't speak for C-Dog. Now you want to goddamn, if Pepper want to piss on you and tell you it's raining, that's you. You know what I'm saying? But not me. You know? But man, nah, fuck that. That's what I like about this goddamn channel on this platform. Everybody has a right to their own opinion. You know? But just me, C-Dog, man, to A3 TV, fuck that shit, man. We got them fucking trash. We ain't got no DJ Moore, no McCaffrey. We ain't got no fucking quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Bryce Young ain't no fucking transformer. I'm telling my age right now. But he ain't. He ain't a fucking Build-A-Bear. None of this shit. You know what I'm saying? He ain't no fucking anime characters. You know what I'm saying? We had superheroes. We can't look like and Luke Kuechly. Them days are fucking gone. Pepper has fucking ruined this team, man. You know? Then y'all got the audacity to talk about other teams in our division. You know? Y'all better hope the Bears on trade got them just to field to the fucking Falcons.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Man, you know, I'm just saying, just me. You know, I ain't gonna sit here and call you no names or nothing. You know? But man, if I say they suck, they fucking suck until they prove me otherwise. If I say Bryce Young is trash, Bryce Young is fucking trash to fucking otherwise. You know what I'm saying? That's my fucking goddamn opinion. What the fuck? Let me just sit here and take this bullshit. Now you sit here and take that shit there. You know what I'm saying? If I go to a restaurant and got them a 5-star restaurant and spend my goddamn money, I spend for that shit to goddamn be 5-star. They can't bring me out no goddamn bullshit McDonald's shit. Like, come on, what are we talking?
Look, I think C-Dog, man, first, we always thank you for your support, man. A great member of the C3 community. But like we've always said is we ain't going to tell anybody how to fan up in here. You know, it's like there is plenty of reasons for you guys to have the opinions that you got, you know. So I'm not going to tell you how to think. And I certainly don't want people to think like me. I love the diversity of conversation that we always bring, and I think that's what makes a lot of the show pretty good. All right, let's go to the next call.
But this is my second call. I just want to finish my first call, whatever. If I got some more money in, I would just let me know. But that's just my goddamn opinion. You know what I'm saying? Don't sit here and tell me what the goddamn thing about this goddamn team and what the goddamn say. You know what I'm saying? We've been sorry for goddamn 6 years in the goddamn row. You know? Like, come on, man. Stop just taking this bullshit. You know, I mean, you can if you want to, but I'm not. Like I'm saying. You know, I'm not taking this shit, man. You know, we can't even get a real goddamn coach to come in here. Because nobody really want to fuck with goddamn Temper, dumbass. Like, man, come on, man. You know, whenever you come in here, man, make sure you hit the goddamn like button, man. Make sure you got to subscribe to this goddamn great content. You boys go live every goddamn Tuesday. They got the free for all on Friday. You know what I'm saying? They got the goddamn game recap, goddamn on Sunday. Then during the season, we got the goddamn the game simulation on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? You know. But man, like I say, man, to otherwise, man, you know, stop telling people what they goddamn think, man. You know, everybody got a right to their own goddamn opinion. You know, like I say, to otherwise, until they come out here and prove something to me, we goddamn trash. You know what I'm saying? We suck. We are the bottom of the goddamn barrel. Hot fucking garbage. You know what I'm saying? Man, I'm just goddamn being honest. Like, man, that's another thing. People don't like that can't take the goddamn truth. Like they said in the movie. You know what I'm saying? A few goddamn good men. You motherfuckers can't take the goddamn truth. You know? Like, I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, they gotta show me something, man. You know? Like, man, we won 2 fucking games this year. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. 2 fucking games, man. In this goddamn weak-ass division? Come on, man. And then I got all these excuses for Bryce Young. Andy Dalton came off the bench and threw for 400 yards with the same goddamn receivers. And Bryce Young ain't complete a deep ball all year. I think Canales is going to come in here and goddamn he's going to get better and be just throwing deep balls down like Baker Mayfield. No, he don't got an arm. I told you, in the NFL, you got to throw receivers open. Word up, man. But, man, whenever you come in here, make sure you hit the motherfucking like button, man. Make sure you subscribe to this great fucking goddamn content. C-Dog1983 TV up.
Thank you for your support. C-Dog.
I mean,
the drink emoji should be live, guys. I made one real quick. We can tweak it in the future, but threw one together real quick. See if it's popped up for you guys. It might take a moment, maybe YouTube. I did hit save. Go ahead, Cody.
No, I was just saying that at this point in time, dude, everybody's going to argue about Bryce until, like C-Dog said, until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
That a lot of people think that he's a bust, and that's not going to change until we actually get the right pieces to make it change. I have said, though, that if Bryce is a system quarterback, I'm happy that we've got the guy to put the right system around him. I think Bryce can be successful. We have to upgrade this team, man. And we have to implement a culture of wanting to kick ass. Like actually wanting to go out there and dominate and be aggressive and getting angry that everyone just sees us as the bad news Panthers that you can write off as a W on your schedule. We need some aggression on this team.
Speaking of that, did you see what Steve Wilkes put up? Got it towards the end. Here it is Steve Wilkes. He mentioned is going to the Super Bowl, heading to the Super Bowl. Now, Steve Wilkes has not had the most glorious time in San Francisco. And look, first, I'm very happy for him. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a good defensive mind. I think he's probably doing what he thinks is best with his team, because we've seen Steve Wilkes adjust in a couple of different ways, right? I mean, he ran a lot of zone for the Carolina Panthers last year. He's run a lot of zone defense in San Francisco because, he thinks, I guess, you can win with the front four. But we saw when Wilkes was the defensive coordinator before he was hired to the Arizona Cardinals blitz at the highest rate in the entire league. So I don't think he's a one-trick pony. But he put this up after their trip to the Super Bowl. And he says, as I look back on my life, I realized that every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better.
Oh, shots fired, man.
Yeah. So,
damn.
That is, and look, is now Christian McCaffrey's headed to the Super Bowl. I don't really count that Sam Darnold's headed to the Super Bowl. He hasn't done anything there. But CMC, I mean, are you guys going to root for the 49ers in this? And I don't know who I'm going to, if I have a dog, like, I just don't think I'm picking against the Chiefs anymore. I picked against the Chiefs with the Bills. They beat the Bills. I picked against the Chiefs with the Ravens. They beat the Ravens. Travis Kelce's walking right into the Hall of Fame after this season if he retired. And Patrick Mahomes isn't far behind him.
Oh, no. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is already breaking that discussion of, is he better than Tom Brady? He doesn't have the number of accolades, but if you look at the number of years that he's spent in his career versus what Tom had done to the same number of years, it's close, if not in favor of Pat. So, I mean, I want the 49ers to win. I do. I want to see CMC get a Super Bowl ring. I want to see Steve Wilkes get a Super Bowl ring. How funny is it that Mike Shanahan and Ed McCaffrey won a Super Bowl together, and now both of their sons have a chance to do the same thing.
Great point.
That's pretty cool too. So, it's a cool opportunity for the boys. And again, after everything CMC went through as a Panther, Matt Rule just completely misjudging the amount of times to use him and not use him in practice and in the game. I'm pulling for him, man. And Steve Wilkes could have been a head coach here in Carolina and definitely would have been better than Frank Reich, knowing that now.
Have they picked the Rookie of the Year yet? I mean, the Offensive Player of the Year yet?
No.
I feel like they don't factor in the playoffs, though, when they make that decision of, like, NFL MVP.
Well, like, yeah, who's the MVP now? Like, now that everybody's lost it to Patrick Mahomes, like, are you really giving the MVP?
Christian McCaffrey.
Do it, dude. CMC for MVP, baby.
I just don't know if the MVP. I think they announced it before the Super Bowl. I'm not sure. Was it Cam announced the MVP before our Super Bowl?
Yes, they announced it a couple of days before.
I feel like they generally base it on their regular season performance. Now, Christian McCaffrey had a regular season performance that was deserving, but a lot of people believe that Lamar Jackson's going to be that MVP. Even Patrick Mahomes believes that. But I wonder if somehow Christian McCaffrey can be that MVP. And it would be nice to see somebody who's not a quarterback get it for once.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's been forever since a running back has won the MVP award. Who was the last MVP? Was it a
non quarterback?
Yeah, Adrian Peterson. He won he won MVP, right?
I have no idea who the last MVP. I'm sure the chat will get it. I'll Google it too.
Who was the last MVP at a non-quarterback
position? Let's go to
Marshall Faulk.
God, that's way back in the well, dude.
Is that how far back it goes? C3? No, Adrian Peterson. Yeah, 100%. It's got to be Adrian.
Okay.
Al, what's going on with you guys? Yeah, we definitely don't need to go get a free agent wide receiver because it's not necessary. But we do need to draft properly and build a team. I like the way the front office USA is going with the coach and with Dan Morgan. I like the way that's going. And I mean, we'll be good, bro. We just got to give Bryce one more year to suck it up, and then we get a new quarterback, and then we can rebuild it. And we can rebuild properly, and we'll be straight, bro. You guys need something to watch on TV, man. Go watch that Griselda on Netflix. It's good. That bitch is crazy.
Yeah, I like it. Griselda.
What is that? Is that what you talked about last week?
No, the Griselda is about Griselda Blanco, the Medellin drug cartel chick that came to Miami in the 1980s. She was like a big time drug kingpin in Miami. Yeah, okay. It's a good show. It's got Sofia Vergara. She plays Griselda.
Right.
It's actually a good show. If you like Narcos and stuff like that, you would love this show.
Is it based on the kind of what is the Queen of the South lady based on? Her?
Yeah, it's based on a true story, on a real person. Yeah.
Right. I wonder, but have you ever seen the show Queen of the South? I think that's what it's called.
I know what show you're talking about,
and it's like
I think it's different though. I'm not entirely sure.
All right, let's go. We got two last calls. We're making good time tonight.
Holy shit, fellas! Sorry about calling in again. This is Josh.
He's going back, dipping into the well.
Special occasion for me, so I'm drinking a little gin. That's why I'm calling in so much. Sorry about that. Anyways, man, look, we should be so optimistic right now. I really think this Canales guy, man, he's young. He's kind of look. I mean, when you look at what happened with Ben Johnson and everything else, man, I think we made the right choice on this one. I think this season feels a lot different, and, this is going to be a little slow build if everybody can just be a little patient with it. Anyway, sorry about calling in. I think that we have got to stay positive. We just witnessed the worst season in franchise history. I'm convinced. It really is, man. It's the worst season that we've ever seen from the Carolina Panthers. Now, that's okay because now it's over with. But this is going to take a little time. There's a lot of players in the draft we can get, and there's a lot of things that can happen. So if our owner will chill out a little bit, then we're going to be all good. All right. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Thanks for the call. We do need to keep it positive. I mean, that's really the only hope, and we really got to just salvage a little bit of our dignity at this point. This is wild. If you look at the MVP.
Hey, hold on, let me say something real quick. We never want anyone to feel sorry for calling in, man. We're interactive for a reason. During the season when we're doing post game shows, and the calls get like 30, 40 deep, then we'll normally ask you to do one. But on nights like tonight, man, hey, we want to hear from you. We're happy that you're deciding to spend your Tuesday nights chilling with us, man.
And we're going to need you all off season, right? So keep them coming because we're going to continue to do this each and every week. And there's a couple of months in there where we're not going to have a ton of news to talk about. This list of MVPs, first, you go back, Adrian Peterson was the last MVP that was not a quarterback. Then it's quarterback before him. 11 was Aaron Rodgers. 10 was Tom Brady. 9 was Peyton Manning. 08 was Peyton Manning. 07 was Tom Brady. Then 06, you got LaDainian. You had a 2-year run. Sean Alexander in 2005, LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006. But what's really wild about this is it's really only been quarterback or running back. Marshall Faulk got it in 2000. Terrell Davis, Barry Sanders. You got it in 98, 97. The last time a non-quarterback, non-running back was 1986 with Lawrence Taylor. Defensive player got MVP. But I don't know what the hell happened in 1982. But Mark Mosley, place kicker, Washington Redskins, MVP. How is that possible? Is that a typo?
Wait, say it again?
1982, Mark Mosley, place kicker, Washington Redskins. How is a place kicker the MVP of the league? That's fucking bizarre. What the hell happened that year, and who was this guy? Did he step in and become a quarterback for him or something? I'm going to have, Daniel says a strike season. Oh, the strike season. Oh, man, I'm going to have to ask my friend Clip because he's a Washington Redskin who was he played for. Interesting. All right. Let's see. This is the last call of the night for right now, I think.
And what's up? It's the real AP.
What's up, my man?
To follow up on what C-Dog and D Optimistic Prime. That's my dude.
Yes, sir.
We got to look at we've accomplished so much as a team in such a short span of time. Like what are we in, like 28 seasons now? We've been to 4 NFC championships, 2 Super Bowls. Yeah, we come up empty, but I'm very optimistic about it. I'm hoping these coaching changes, hirings, everything's going to play out, man. You just got to look at the bright side of things, man. I mean, it's a business, it's a league. I mean, you just got to go with it. Just like we said, like Tony said at the beginning, like just even kill, man, even flow. Like whatever happens, man. I mean, can it get any worse, really?
I've been burnt saying that, though, with Matt Rule.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm going to hang up this goddamn phone. And thanks to all you guys, man, and what you do. Thanks to everybody in the chat, man. Y'all are awesome. And no matter what life throws at you, man, just keep pounding. Keep fucking pounding. Peace.
Pounding. That's a mantra. That's a life.
Man, that's a real dude. That's a real C3 community member. Man, well, I really appreciate it. Look, great calls tonight. A lot of great chat. And these are the real faithfuls that are in with us right now. And that's what's awesome is our numbers aren't the biggest but we are the mightiest podcast, and we're the mightiest Panthers podcast because the community, man, is incredible. And these people, you guys are what make the show for us, really. And you make it so that we want to keep doing it. We want to keep interacting. We want to keep building this thing. All right, Super Bowl picks real quick. I'm going to have to go with
do you want to do that
really
now?
Pick it this week or next week?
Okay, we'll do it next
week. We still got a whole week.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I forget. Yeah, we got a week off.
Yeah.
We've already talked about the news, I believe, for the most part, is Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, Arthur Smith going to be the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Offensive. So, hey, they're trying to figure out what to do with Kenny Pickett. They're probably looking for a quarterback right now. I don't think a lot of people believe in Kenny Pickett. So that's about it. I don't know if we got really much. We'll be watching the Senior Bowl coming up. Don't forget, guys, you can go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and there is we haven't sold a piece of merchandise since October, I don't think. So, hey, go check out the gear. Shut the hell up. The C3 Panthers Podcast mug and the C3 Panthers Podcast t-shirt, all cool stuff. Small things can help us continue to grow, but I love the super chat, the super fans, C3 super fans. Best way, I think, to continue to build this community. The new emoji of a drink, the thrown or spilt milk drink, is out there, and we'll continue to have some fun stuff, including, I think I'm going to get some copies of Dave Canales' book to give away to some C3 super fans over the next couple of months. Cody Lack, I guess there's only one last thing to do at this point, and that's to ice some fools up.
Oh, let's do it.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
Ice Up segment is the longest running segment on the longest running Panthers podcast, and that's where we tell someone to ice up, toughen up to get it together. It's our homage to Steve Smith, where we step outside the football world, sometimes stay in the football world, anybody's fair game, to ice up, toughen up to get it together. Cody Lack, what you got for us? You got
yeah, go first. I'm
okay.
still trying to find.
My number one ice up pick goes to car prices, right? And I don't really believe it was the cash for clunkers that really drove car prices through the roof. Maybe that did contribute. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's probably just the expansion of financing that has really led to car prices getting more and more. I mean, now a new car, like you could go buy a truck, it's like $100,000. They're financing cars for 10 years, brand new. My truck, which is a 2014 full-size Chevy Silverado, it's not even the four-wheel drive window, good mileage on it when I bought it, was $28,000. I needed a truck that could carry my family, and also I live out kind of like a big property. I got to haul shit. We live outside the city limits, so it's just very useful. I've had to finance that bitch for 8 years. You know, I mean, and you're talking that put the payment down to $450 or something like that. I mean, that's crazy to finance a used car for 8 years. When I was coming up in the 90s, the longest you could really finance a used car was for 2 years. So I think the expansion of financing has driven up used car prices. But you're talking about paying this guy. When we stopped at a car lot, and I'm trying to just buy it from an individual is my goal for my son. And I stopped at this small dealership. The guy was like, it's hard to find a used car for under $10,000. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, you're talking dipping back to a 20-year-old car for something that's like $3-4 grand, which is insane. So I'm gonna ice up car prices. The other thing I want to ice up is BYU. BYU, they made the kids take off the horns down t-shirts at the basketball game. Like, so each person had a letter and it said horns down. And they were playing Texas, and Texas has got to be the softest ass fan base. So I want to ice up BYU for catering to them. And then the coach says, we're not about that. We're not that type. I guess they are Mormon religious school, but let the kids tease the other team. I mean, it's not out in such poor taste. And I wish those kids, I saw a great tweet where they said they should have painted it on their chest as well. So when they took off their shirts, they still had it. So those are my ice up picks for this week. TK, you got one for us?
I did, but I forgot what it was. So
okay.
Damn it.
I'll try to grab it.
I had saved this one, and now it's not. I must not have saved it, dude.
Okay. All right. Well, ice up to you fellas for not having ice up picks.
I know, man. If I find one before Oh, you already did yours. So
Yeah, this is it. That's the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We really appreciate your time, your energy, and your support. Check us out on Spotify, iTunes. Now it's YouTube Music now that you got to get it, because they went away from Google Podcast, does not exist anymore. So guys, continue to support the show just by calling in and being a part of the community. Smash the thumbs up button and be a friend, tell a friend, as Pat McAfee used to say. CK, thank you for your time. Cody Lack, thank you, brother, for being the wheelman of this podcast and producing it and doing a great job with the comments and all the things you do behind the scenes that people don't see. Why don't you take us out of here, my man?
Yeah, man. Look, join us Friday for the free-for-all. I see Josh wanting to come in and make himself known there as well. Hey, Fridays are for the fans, man. Everybody to come on and be able to enjoy the show. Tony, CK, I love you, boys. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else on a Tuesday night than talking Panthers football with y'all. C3 Panther Nation. Until next time, keep pounding.